Hello, hello, and welcome to this week's episode of The Hard Choice. Simple steps for showing up. My name is Brad Draper. I am your host. I'm grateful for you. Let's do this. I alluded to this episode last week. So if you recall, last week I had this conversation with a friend with a terminal illness. And we had a conversation that went a little something like this. And if you want to go deeper in this topic, hit it over to that episode. But the conversation went something like this. You must live moment by moment because your next moment is not guaranteed. I do have a friend it's a late friend who passed away Memorial Day weekend 2020. He passed away from a pulmonary embolism, aka a blood clot in his lungs. Those are a death sentence. When that happens, you will instantaneously die, which is kind of scary for some people. But in reality, we all have this thread. That's why you need to be healthy. This person, however, was exceptionally healthy. He was a spin instructor for 18 years. He taught spin class 2 or 3 days a week. He rode his bike to work, which is about 30 miles. He did that once or twice per week on the days that he wasn't. I just got totally sidetracked. I got my son screaming in the in the vent. That threw me for a loop. I thought my son was sitting right behind me. That was weird. All right, back to track. He was warned. He was a spin instructor. He rode 100-mile races, and he was warned about 4 months earlier that he ate too much red meat. And he thought, I don't eat that much. I'm a healthy human. I do all my stuff. I'm super strong, super active. I'm fine. He fell over and died, walking to his car, Memorial Day weekend, 2020. And so now his name was Dinesh. And so now we have a statement in our household, which is don't be like Dinesh. If you have a thought to go to the doctor, go to the doctor. If you have a thought to do something, you should go do it, because that may just be a precursor or a pre-warning to something that may be on the horizon if you don't take action. So I'm in this room with this friend with a terminal illness, talking about living moment by moment. Why fear something that has not yet happened? Because reality is it won't happen exactly as you think. And even if it does, which it won't, but it will never be as bad as you make it out to be in your own head. You're a really good storyteller, and you're really good at convincing yourself of the very worst possible outcome. Some of the quote-unquote worst things to happen to me that did end up happening, they weren't that bad. Looking through them, they were, a lot of them very much so sucked. But I'm alive. And more importantly, on top of that, I learned things. Valuable things. I learned lessons. I learned skills. I learned traits. I learned so many things that are so beneficial to me, and I'm grateful for them. I am grateful for my trials. So I'm down in Beaver, Utah. I'm up the mountain at Eagle Point Ski Resort, which I didn't even know existed. It's been there since the 70s, and it's gorgeous. And that canyon is 13 miles. When I went up that canyon, total canyon carving. It was awesome. That canyon is pretty sweet. It's gorgeous, and it is just filled with turns. There's several hairpin turns, and it's just a blast to drive through. So I canyon bombed that thing going up, and it was awesome. And then coming down, I had a thought, maybe you should go a little bit slower on the way down. Maybe you should think a little more methodically, a little more meticulously, and have a little more intention with how you do things coming down. And so I did. I took my time a little bit more coming down, still had fun. It was still gorgeous, but I stopped and looked around as I was going. I can kind of feel something was off. Couldn't tell what it was, but I could feel something was off. I kept checking all my gauges on my car, kept looking at monitors, making sure things were behaving as they should. And they were. And everything was good and dandy. And then I get out of the canyon, I get on the freeway, and I'm heading home. And then all of a sudden, my tire pressure sensor goes off. I'm like, that's interesting. And I've had this go on and off because my TPMS is getting a little bit old. My tire pressure monitoring system is getting a little bit old. I have a pretty old tire. that was on my front driver side. And with all of this going on and we're bootstrapping our company, I have not been able to replace all 4 tires. I've had to do one at a time as they fail. And this was the last one to get replaced. Grateful for Audi Quattro, able to do that. Most all-wheel drive systems don't like that. Audi Quattro, super grateful for that. And then I went down the road a little while later. I kept having this thought like, I should probably pull over in Fillmore, which between Fillmore and Beaver, it's something like 30 or 40 miles. And as I'm approaching Fillmore, I come over the hill. I can kind of tell the car is starting to drift. I said, oh, dang, maybe I really am losing tire pressure. Maybe I do actually have a little hole. I may have got something. And then all of a sudden, the suspension alerts went off. I was like, oh, okay, awesome. So good. Which tells me the car is now out of alignment suspension and it's not level anymore, which means that tire actually is losing pressure, and it's losing pressure fairly quickly. Continue down the road because I'm almost to Fillmore. I can see the city, and I feel the tire start to give. I said, here we are. And I was very intentional on paying attention to the mechanics and behavior of the car. And I could feel the tire start to go. I said, okay, here it is. Tire's about to go. It's about to go flat. I'll pull off into the side of the road. And then all of a sudden, I can feel a little bump. And I looked next to me, and the tread belt to my tire was on the road next to me. Now I'm running exclusively on rim. Oh, man. Doing 80 miles an hour, by the way. Speed limit in that area is 80 miles an hour. I was doing 80 miles an hour. Tread belt is spinning next to me in the lane next to me on the freeway. So I pull off. I was on the phone with my wife, told her how to go. Pull off. Sure enough, that was my belt, as I knew. And I am sitting on the rim. Gratefully, the bead to the tire was still there. It was actually glued on from manufacturer. Those were original manufacturer tires, I think. They were glued on. And so I still had the bead there, and that protected my rim. The rim didn't have a scratch on it at all. And I swap out to the donut, which I'm very proficient at. Side note, if you don't know how to change a tire, you might want to pause this episode and go change a tire. That will inevitably happen. The likelihood of you having to change a tire on the side of the road in your lifetime is fairly high. You should know how to jump a car too. But I swap the tire out. It takes me no more than 10 minutes. Pull out the jack stand, the scissor lift up the car, change it over, drop it down. My donut has very little pressure in it. It has enough that it's not completely flat, but it's pretty dang flat. So I drove the 1 mile to Meadow, Utah, the town just before Fillmore. And gratefully enough, the Shell gas station there was a full mechanic shop. And I was able to air up my tire and torque down my wheels because I had a tire star. I didn't want to torque it with so low of pressure on the tire. Didn't want to spin the bead there. Turns out it had 18 PSI on a tire designed for 60 PSI. So pretty low. Well, you can't go so fast. You can't do 80 miles an hour, or you shouldn't, I should say. Go 80 miles an hour on a donut. You're not supposed to go over 50 miles. I had 140 miles to go home. So I did 65 miles an hour for the next several hours. My 3-hour drive turned into a 4-hour drive. I made it home. I got the tire replaced the next day, but I ended up getting home close to 10 p.m. that night. Here's the thing. I, being a man of God, truly believe that there are many angels there to keep me aware. Remember in the canyon, I had this thought, something's off, something's weird. So I was very intentional into knowing what was going on, the feeling of the car. I'm the kind of driver that I pay attention to everything. I know how the car feels, how the pedals feel, how the sounds are. If something seems off, I will probably pick up on it. And something felt off in the canyon. Had that tire given way in the canyon, it would have been a very different story. That canyon is very, very curvy. There's no shoulders, and much of the length, one side is mountain, one side is cliff. And it's that way for 13 miles for much of it. If I had to change a tire on that road, I would have been in the lane doing it, which is so dangerous. And if I lost control of the car, could have easily gone off because there's a few spots where there are no guide rails. It is an open canyon. And I'm super grateful for that blessing. But life can change that fast. Everything can change in your world instantaneously. Why not change for the better? Why not change for the positive? We typically hear this idea, this nomenclature, this concept of everything can change, and we're relating it to like dark things. What about things of light? What about positivity? Everything can change in a moment. One conversation, one experience, one drive. As I told this friend, I'm about to drive 3 hours home in the next few hours. I could easily not make it home. The probability of me getting in a wreck is greater than 0. Am I living a life worthy to do that drive with that in mind? Am I living? Am I laughing? Am I loving? Am I doing something that matters? Am I helping others? Am I moving the work of God forward, whatever that looks like for you? Am I doing everything I can with what I have? Back to the last episode on moments. It is so important. It is morally imperative that you live each moment like it's your last. And if you go back a few episodes ago, you'll remember that this next moment may be the moment that everything changes, because it is. This is all you have. This moment right now. This is the only thing that exists. You had previous moments that have come and gone, and they've turned you into who you are because you are a sum of your experiences. You have moments yet to come, and they will come, but they will not be exactly as you think they are. In fact, they're going to be better. It is impossible to come up with what your future looks like because you have yet to receive it. You have yet to see it. You have yet to receive it. You have yet to experience it. There are new things coming down the world and coming down the line that are built just for you. Think about that. Relationships, friendships, engagements, experiences. There are things that have been created exclusively for your benefit. Now, isn't that a cool thought? Isn't that just so beautiful to think about, that is made just for you? These moments are curated by the master conductor for you. Ponder that. Think about that. And then from that point, think about your worth. You're worth that and everything more. You are worth the life of a God. You are worth the life of another. Because I promise you, there is somebody in your life that would willingly take a bullet for you. So you're worth the life of another and the life of a God. How cool that is. Don't take it for granted. Don't squander it. Think about it often. Ponder on it often. And then be willing to work for it. Your thoughts precede your actions, and your actions precede your opportunities. You are creating your opportunities with your thoughts and led by action. Or thoughts preceded by action. Am I backwards on that? Yeah. Thoughts led by action. Action led by thoughts. There it is. You know, we're going to get there. But I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful that you listen to these episodes. I believe this is episode 140. Whew. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. This started 2.5 years ago. And how beautiful of a ride it has been. And I look forward to the next 140 and what relationships they bring, what experiences they bring. I could have never conceived what came down the line because I sit in front of this camera and I press record on that board. Never in a million years. My life is forever changed because of this little combo that I put my voice to the world. That's all I'm doing, is I'm recording myself talk in a room by myself. What could happen in your world with such little things? You can find me on socials, Mr. Brad Draper. Let's have a conversation. Have this conversation with your friends and your family. Like this thing, subscribe to it, download it for future listings. Until next week, I love you guys. Bye.